Inflation is when the prices of things we buy, like toys, food, and clothes, keep going up for a while. This means our money doesn't go as far as it used to. So, even if you have the same amount of money, you might not be able to buy as many things as before because things cost more. Throughout history, people have used a variety of items as a form of money for trading. Sometimes, they picked things that were easy to trade, like shells, tobacco leaves, or precious jewelry. As the concept of money evolved, the value of these items could stay stable as long as the supply of other goods also grew. In other words, if there were more things like food and clothes available, the prices of those things wouldn't change too much, and the items used as money could keep their value. Inflation happens when there are lots of goods being used as money, like tobacco leaves were used as currency years after the American Revolution. Tobacco had more value than what it cost to make, so people who grew it for money stopped planting other crops and focused on growing more tobacco. With so much tobacco around, more paper money was used, but the production of other things didn't increase, and inflation happened. Inflation can be explained simply by thinking of it this way. Imagine you have 10 coins, and each coin can buy you 1 apple. So, apples cost 1 coin each. Now, if you suddenly have 20 coins but there are still only 10 apples available, the price of apples goes up to 2 coins each. And if you had 40 coins with the same 10 apples, the price of apples would be 4 coins each. That's a basic way to understand how inflation works. When there's more money in circulation but not enough goods, prices tend to rise. There are prominent kinds of inflation. 1. Demand pull inflation. 2. Cost push inflation. 3. Inflation by governmental policies. First, let's talk about demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation is simple. That happens when everyone wants to buy more stuff than there is available, so prices start going up. This can occur when people are spending a lot, the government is putting money into the economy, interest rates are low, or businesses are investing more. When there's too much demand and not enough supply, prices rise, making things more expensive for consumers. For a proper example, in a small farming town known for its strawberries, a big food festival attracts lots of visitors who all want to buy these delicious berries. The local farms can't keep up with the demand, so they raise the prices of strawberries. This is an example of demand pull inflation, where high demand pushes prices higher. And the second one, cost push inflation. Cost push inflation occurs when the costs of making things go up, like when workers ask for more pay, energy gets more expensive, or raw materials cost more. To make up for these higher costs, businesses charge more for their products, and that means consumers end up paying higher prices for the things they buy. Inflation by governmental policies. In present days, many countries print their own money as official currencies. With these money printers, if the government can print as much money as they want, that's a direct way to inflation. By the way, let me explain the tax and pension system in case you didn't know. Pensions are not simply payments from the revenue of the work done during one's younger years. They function more like a tax, where the younger generation contributes to support the older generation's retirement. Essentially, the financial burden of pensioners falls on the shoulders of the younger generation through taxation. While this system typically works fine, it can become problematic if the elderly population outnumbers the younger one, leading to potential challenges in sustaining the pension system. Japan is experiencing a similar situation. Japan has a rapidly aging population with a declining birth rate, which means that the proportion of elderly citizens is growing while the number of younger people is shrinking. This demographic shift has put significant pressure on Japan's pension system. The government has implemented various measures to address this issue, but it remains a significant demographic and economic challenge for Japan. When it comes to printing money, there are certain rules and criteria that need to be followed. One crucial aspect involves monitoring all circulating money supply to ensure it aligns with the country's economic policies and needs. The size of the circulating money supply should ideally be proportional to the gross domestic product of a country. Governments should avoid printing an excessive amount of money without considering the GDP because it can be a risky and dangerous move. A crucial question to when the government printed a significant amount of money in the 1960s and 1970s in the USA. The U.S. government printed a substantial amount of paper money, and there were 3 primary reasons for this. Firstly, government spending increased significantly. Secondly, there was a policy aimed at ensuring that everyone had a job. Lastly, there were some monetary policies in place that were not very effective. Government spending increases for various reasons. For instance, when the government decides to build new schools, hospitals, or repair roads, it has to spend more money on these projects. Additionally, during times of economic difficulty, the government may provide financial assistance to people who don't have jobs, which also raises its spending. Demographic changes, such as an aging population, can lead to higher spending on things like healthcare and pensions. Moreover, responding to emergencies like natural disasters often requires increased government spending to provide relief and support to affected communities. These are some of the common factors that lead to an increase in government spending. When a government needs to cover its expenses, especially when it's deep in debt from extensive spending, one option is to print more money, which often goes unnoticed by the public at first. On the flip side, raising taxes or borrowing from the public can lead to protests, complaints, and potentially higher unemployment rates. However, when the government chooses to increase the money supply by printing more money, it essentially injects extra funds into national banks. These banks then lend to small businesses and companies, which can lead to increased hiring and job opportunities. That's what most governments intended to happen. In reality, printing an excessive amount of money doesn't just harm employment, it also exacerbates inflation and can lead to higher unemployment rates. This is why many governments and central banks often resort to this approach cautiously, as it can have unintended consequences when trying to achieve their economic goals. But why does the unemployment rate tend to increase when inflation occurs? When inflation occurs, there's generally more money circulating in the economy, and people have extra cash to spend. This leads to increased demand for various goods, for example paper. In response, manufacturers, such as paper producers, ramp up their production and hire more workers to meet this growing demand. However, what they might not initially realize is that the increased demand isn't limited to just one product. It extends to many other goods as well. As a result, the costs of producing these basic items rise, including the wages they pay to their employees. This can trigger a cycle known as the price-wage spiral, where prices go up because wages increase, and wages increase because prices are rising. At the same time, businesses might have to let some workers go while also trying to produce more with the remaining employees who are earning higher salaries. Unfortunately, this can result in a higher unemployment rate than before. And when there's a surge in demand for goods like electronics, clothing, and cars, but the supply can't keep up, their prices go up. It's because people want to buy more of these things, but there aren't enough available, so businesses charge more for them. This is what leads to prices rising, which is part of inflation. So how do governments try to solve inflation? The common solution is that central banks use changes in interest rates as a way to control inflation. When prices are rising too fast, they might increase interest rates, making it more expensive to borrow money. This tends to slow down spending and investment, which helps bring inflation under control. On the flip side, when the economy needs a boost, they might lower interest rates. This makes borrowing cheaper and encourages people and businesses to spend and invest more, which can stimulate growth. However, if it's not managed carefully, it can also lead to higher inflation. The goal is to find the right balance between controlling inflation and supporting a healthy economy. During the early 2010s, Turkey confronted chronic inflation, posing significant economic challenges. These reforms included the implementation of strict fiscal discipline measures, which aim to reduce budget deficits and control government spending. Turkey also established a special independent bank, called the Central Bank of the Republic of Turkey, to control the money supply without any political interference. And they allowed their currency, the Turkish lira, to change its value based on what people wanted, which is called a floating exchange rate. All of these actions together helped to bring down inflation from very high levels to much lower, more manageable numbers. Countries need to avoid inflation because it erodes the value of their currency, creates uncertainty, distorts decision-making, harms those on fixed incomes, raises interest rates, disrupts international competitiveness, and can lead to social and political unrest, among other negative effects. Maintaining stable prices is essential for economic stability and the well-being of individuals and businesses. Thank you so much for watching.